My workshop is in a state that I can actually work in it now, so it's time to get some new tools for the shop. And I'm starting with this interesting tool I just learned about called a shopsmith. This thing is quite bizarre, but I think I'm really gonna like having it as a resource here. And not only did I buy one shopsmith, I got two shopsmiths. Well, actually, I got three shopsmiths. And along with those shopsmiths, I got a bunch of accessories that come with them, which is what makes this system so interesting. Let me go get this last one. Yeah, it's a bandsaw. And it goes right. So let me step back 3 full days to when my buddy sent me this YouTube short from a channel called The Workshop Companion, where he was talking about these things. Basically, it's this all-in-one woodworking station, and out of curiosity, I searched Facebook Marketplace, and it turns out these things used go for really cheap, only a couple $100. Needless to say, I was intrigued. I've been wanting to get back into woodworking. I did a whole semester of it back in college and really loved it, did some really fine, intricate stuff. And now that I have this big pile of wood waiting to be milled down with the bandsaw mill that my neighbor has, I'm starting to think about having some woodworking tools to actually make stuff with it in my shop. And these tools seem really great for someone that either doesn't have the space for a whole bunch of woodworking tools, or for someone like myself that doesn't want to take up a lot of space that they have for, 6 or 7 different tools that really I don't expect to use all the time. So they just be collecting dust in the way at the floor space that they would take up for me. Whereas I can have it all in one relatively small footprint and just move it around to its different implements and configurations to do the tasks that I want to do with it. But why did I get 3 of them? It's pretty simple, really. To start off with, this unit that came with most of the accessories that I have on the floor here, I purchased from an older gentleman named John, who I believe bought this brand new in probably the 1980s from what I understand about this particular design of the shopsmith, and took really good care of it the whole time that he owned it. It looked in really good condition, and in the last couple of years he hasn't really maintained it because that's the reason he's selling it. Basically, he's just gotten too old to be working with this machine, so he wanted to find a nice new owner for it that would appreciate it, and hopefully that's me. But he was asking a lot for this one. He was asking $800. I ended up paying $500 for it, not because I don't think it's worth much more than that, but the market for these things is just non-existent right now. There were dozens of them that I saw for $200, $300, $400, and I really liked his story, and I liked how much he definitely took care of this thing, so I felt $500 was fair for the market for these things, and he was happy to accept that. And hopefully, John, if you're seeing this, you will see me appreciating your machine. The second one that I bought over here, what I wanted on it mainly was this guy. This is a jointer. The guy ended up selling it to me for $100. It was this, it came with the bench, it came with all the tools that are in there, and I think it's mostly here. The problem with this one though is he didn't know much about it. He got it from his brother, who got it from his dad after he had passed away, who had it for a long time and actually had built this bench. But the brother used it for a little bit and then it sat, and then he gave it to the guy that I purchased it from, and he never actually used it. And he gave me a test run of it, and it works, but it didn't sound so good. So we'll see how useful it'll be overall. I might just have bought it for this jointer here, but for $100, not too bad, I think. And then this last one here is the Mark 7. And there's a current version called the Mark 7, but that's like with the number 7, and that one's a Mark 7 like VII, and apparently that matters. Basically, that one can go in reverse and can flip like the other direction. It can flip up this way, and then it can flip down if you want to think of it that way, and the motor will spin the other way, and that gives you more capabilities with it. But that older unit, the motor stuff and some of the components you can't really service anymore. What's real interesting about the Shopsmith company, they've been around since the 50s and they still exist today. They still make all the parts, and you can basically keep refurbishing these, indefinitely, except that one, as I understand it, because they don't really support the guts of that motor anymore. So that one was a bit of a risk, but it does go forward, it does go backward, and I'm sure I could do aftermarket stuff if I decide I want to keep that one, fix it up and make it hopefully useful. But it seems to work. I haven't really tested them very thoroughly, so it'll be interesting to see as I kind of go through them and try and bring them back into working order, how much work I need to do. This one, I think I can pretty much just clean off the dust and go to town with it. He had replaced this maybe 10 years ago, and the motor would have been replaced because it was wearing out from several decades of use, and he had that all replaced, and that one ran fine. So this one, I think I can just go and put a little lube on it and just go to town with it. These other two, we'll see. But for $100 for this one, and I only spent $300 on that one, which I think was a good deal. It's the only Mark 7 that I could find for sale. I think collectively spending $900 on all of this is really incredible. And what I believe is the case is you can probably go on your Facebook marketplace and find these for the same price, because I had some friends in Arkansas and out in Washington State and California all check their Facebook marketplaces, and they saw the same thing. These things sell for really cheap, working and everything. And even if it's not working, you can buy parts to replace them still. So pretty interesting. Now, I suspect I'm going to be ultimately missing some of the components that are claimed to be present, but looking at everything and not fully knowing what I'm looking at, I do think some of the tools are missing to make all the functionality occur, mostly with these two units. But in theory, this can work as a table saw. I have two different bandsaw attachments. I have this jointer. It can actually be turned up and turned into a drill press, as well as a shaper when the cutting head is over top. It can be a boring machine, and it can be a table router. On that one, it can basically work as a shaper this way or a shaper this way, because it can go both directions. Oh, and of course, it can also be a lathe. I saw there was some kind of biscuit joiner accessory. Also, it has two different disc sanders. There's one that is basically set up like it would be the table saw, but it's a big disc sander. And I have a belt sander attachment for it too. So these systems are really versatile, and I think there's a couple other accessories that aren't in this hodgepodge of parts that you can also buy. You can do pretty much anything with these tools, and you could even build a boat like John once did with this unit way back in the day. So pretty neat. This video is really just an introduction about them and to kind of gauge how much interest people have in these things. You're gonna see them in my videos in the future, especially when I'm working with wood. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a video of me sort of going through these and fixing them up and seeing what's wrong with them and seeing how they work. I'm pretty fascinated with this because another one of the things that's real interesting about them is it has this dial, and it can go from, I believe, 500 RPM up to 5,000 RPM. So it just has a dial to adjust the RPMs, which is really cool. So let me know in the comments what you think of this thing. I'd really love to do some videos kind of doing an overview of how they work and the different ways they move around, as well as cleaning them up and showing you the capabilities of one of these things. They seem really cool to me, and I look forward to playing with them and fixing them up and seeing how I consolidate parts and what I do with each one. And if you want to see my journey with these shopsmiths, please subscribe to my channel. You'll definitely be seeing them. And as always, have a good one.